But welcome, everyone. We are thrilled to have you here and to have Daniela, who is a connector, convener, educator, and storyteller. She has worked with universities and communities around the world, and we are very excited that she is here to share her stories and wisdom with our Open Studio community. So I'm not going to eat up any more time because, again, Daniela has a jam-packed day for us, but welcome to all of you and welcome to Daniela.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I am going to share my screen so we can kick that off. 1 second, because okay, here we go. Hi, I am Daniela. I'm excited to be with you today. And there we go. We're going to talk about a call to systems. And what I mean by that is that this time, specifically this time, all times, but really this time, I think the skill set of how to understand and engage in systems is critical. And we're going to explore that through a story about what it means when we detach from systems thinking. We're going to do a main piece about digging in about why now, why is this important now, and then end with another story about the potential of our systems. And we're going to do that mostly with a theme of looking at mental models. And those of you who have already gone through a lot of water centers work or trainings know what mental models are. Probably most of us do, but I'm just going to give us a quick refresher just in case. And this is the 6 conditions framework from FSG. It's from a report called The Waters of Systems Change. And it's saying that these are the things that are holding a system in place, right? And therefore also the opportunities to leverage change, right? And so we all know it's really hard to change policies and practices and research flow. The things underneath that, the relationships, power dynamics, but underneath that is the mental models, the things that we think about and the way that we think. It's like how we map the world in our minds. Those are really what holds these things in place. And what I often say to my students is, imagine that issue that you care about so much. We can change the policies, we can change, we can work on trying to shift those things. But if everybody cared about it as much as you, well, you wouldn't have to worry about changing any of those things, right? They'd all change, right? Because everybody who was voting and who was a policymaker would be like focused on that too, right? Now, mental models are really hard to change. They're the hardest thing to change in this, but they are what we are about to and currently are shifting so strongly in this time that we're in of this huge transformation in humanity, I think. And so that's going to be our theme today, right? So some examples of mental models, big ones like capitalism, right? As educators, it's like we have mental models around what a school is like. It goes Monday to Friday. It looks like this. It feels like this, right? We can look at this in our own lives, like something happened to me. A person from this country did something for me, and I make up a mental model about people from that place, right? I might have a mental model of life happens to me, right? Rather than for me. Okay. And those are what hold our systems in place. So as we go into that, I also just want to call in the Danella Meadows and her fabulous work around systems. And she has an article that comes from her work and her books around leverage points that I often reference. And the first times that I read it, I was like, my brain hurts. When we got to the bottom, I was like, this is so esoteric. I don't really understand. But now I'm like, oh, we're here. This is it. Now, okay, so number 2 at the bottom, one of the deepest is these mindsets, these mental models, these paradigms that we're functioning in. If we can change that, gosh, of course the system can change. But underneath that, she says, it's the power to transcend paradigms. And that's the part I used to think was so esoteric. And I'm like, oh, I realize now that it's, if we understand that we've made this all up, right? The map is not the territory. We've made up these things in our mind, collectively and individually. Then we can much more easily change it, right? And that's our job right now, I think, in humanity, is to recognize that we can change these things. They're not human nature, how we've always done it. It has to stay that way. No, right? So let's jump into our first story. And, I am trying to move the faces of you all so they're not sitting right in the middle of my slides, and I don't know how to do that. Oh, there we go. Okay. What are we missing individually and collectively when we aren't thinking in systems? Anyone know what this is? I can't see you all, but has anyone read this article or seen this thing? No. Okay. No one's raising their hand. You can feel free to jump in the chat. You can have guesses. This is the interstitium. The interstitium is a new body part, at least new for Western medicine, that was identified, seen, noticed in 2015, I think, named and published in 2018. Not just any new body part, most likely an organ, but in order for something to be an organ, it has to be researched more and decided on by a lot more people, but it's likely an organ. And really a system that holds more liquid in our body than our blood. This is an organ, I will repeat, that we just found. It is, here's the story. Neil Thies, professor of pathology at New York University School of Medicine, he has been teaching and looking at body parts for a long time. And he takes these slices of different organs, stick them under his microphone, and he's looking at them. And his whole life, he was taught, and he teaches, that on the edges of the organ, it's a little bit fuzzy. And that fuzziness, he's always been told and he's always taught, was from the drying process. You put formaldehyde, different drying materials on these organs, and it kind of cracks them on the edges. Well, he was looking through a new microscope at the gallbladder, and he's looking at a live organ. And he sees this netting on the edge of the organ. And he brings it to people and he's saying, what is this? Is it, you know, and of course, everyone's, well, we couldn't have missed this. You must be crazy. We know it, that can't be there, right? Because we have our mental models of what is right. But he didn't stop and he kept looking and he did research and eventually found that this lattice-like connections is on every organ. It's under our skin. It's lining our, like, so many different parts of our body. It is transferring what we knew was there. We knew the interstitial fluid was there, but we didn't know that it was in a system. In other words, our body is transferring information and material outside of our bloodstream, right? This is our lymph. This impacts our, really our immune system in huge ways. And it's going to have, and is already having huge implications on how we deal with things like cancer and stuff like that. So the story could be told, new microscope, super fancy microscope. Now we can see the things. Yay, humanity's progressing. No, it's not that. They froze body parts. They took out, they can peel off the interstitium. It is visible to the naked eye. Okay. And I think that we missed it for these reasons. Number one, because we focus on parts versus the whole, right? Mm. And we also have these mental models. Don't question academic things outside your area of expertise. And those two don't exactly match, but like we focus on the parts. We cut out the body part and we focus on it. In America, when people are trained to be ultrasound techs, they're often trained on one organ. I just do the uterus. I just do the lungs, right? In other places, they actually are trained on the body, right? So we do this in academia. We do it in our studies. And so we missed this organ that is actually the interconnections, right? We overlooked indigenous ways of knowing. And I didn't tell the punchline of the story is that they presented this for the first time. They published their paper, they presented it, they stood up, and we're an audience. The first person to ask a question is a Chinese medicine doctor who says, we've known about this for 4,000 years, right? This is like a core teaching of Chinese medicine. But because Western medicine, Western science is correct, indigenous knowledge is primitive, we haven't seen it. We believe in materialism. We haven't seen it. It can't be there. We knew acupuncture worked. We didn't know why, right? But we are overlooking these things that aren't filling our mental model of the right way to know something. We are confusing science as fact. Science is hypothesis, hypothesi, whatever that word is. Science is testing and iterate. Oh, we thought this and now we're trying that, right? But we have challenging science is challenging truth. We have this mental model. No, challenging science is science. That's how we do science. We challenge it and we learn, right? Devaluing both a beginner's mindset and presence. Sorry, that was supposed to say that. So the beginner's mindset piece is trust the experts, right? Oh, you could, if you see this thing, well, you're not an expert on the gallbladder, right? You don't know, you know, but I see this thing, okay? And then overlooking the value of presence and not teaching tools to practice it. Dr. Thies says that his Buddhism practice, his mindfulness practice, his meditation practice is part of why he thinks he was able to do this, because it's about being present to what's there, not necessarily sitting in those other places. So, right, this idea of like, what if we're teaching meditation in every business class? And then increasingly we're starting to do those things in every science class, right? It's not just for meditation, for hippies, not for scientists, right? Okay, and finally, getting stuck in groupthink and cognitive dissonance underlies all of these. Everyone believes it, so it must be true, right? Okay. Other interstitiums going on in the world right now, things that are so obvious right there, so important, so valuable, and we're missing them. Anyone have any in their work? You know, feel free in the chat. Oh, I don't have my chat open too, but you know, feel free to share anything. AI, okay, yeah, how we look at it. For the sake of time, I'm going to jump in and show this one. Has anybody listened to the telepathy tapes? There is one of the most downloaded podcasts in America and the UK. Has anyone listened to this? Authoritarianism. Are you the only one? Someone says they can't see the slides on the screen. The rest of you can see it. Yeah.
I'll respond to that. I have a fix for them.
Okay. Telepathy tapes, one of the most popular downloaded podcasts right now. This is a podcast about how nonverbal autistic people are communicating via telepathy. Those of you who have your mental model going, that can't be true, I highly recommend listening to this. And this is 50 plus years of research that has been suppressed and suppressed and suppressed and suppressed because it doesn't fit our mental models, right? And this is not thousands of teachers and parents making something up, right? This is science, like it goes through this science, right? And to me, listening to this, I'm like, oh, humanity, we are there. We're at one of these, like, is the earth flat? Is the earth round moments in our life, right? Because people, oh, we always thought it was this way. Can't be that way. We are now about to make this shift potentially to say cell phones can have energetic, you know, have fields around them. Magnets have fields around them. Maybe our brains do too, right? And if as humanity, we can, if this is the most downloaded podcast, makes me believe, oh, wow, we can maybe change our mental models, right? We can make that huge leap. We've done it before in the past with our beliefs, the world, around so many different things. And I think we're about to make that again. And once we do that, we can hopefully get to what Daniela Meadows was talking about, realizing we made that up. We made that mental model up, right? And now we're believing, oh, wow, this might be bigger than we thought. Okay, so highly recommend this tape, especially for anyone with a nonverbal person in their life, or educators, therapists. Okay, so what do these stories bring up for you? I'd love to, if anyone wants to unmute, share anything so far, share something in the chat. Is there, and especially around anything that you're like, oh, I might, in my work, we might be overlooking something too.
Being the shy person in the group, I will.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Fascinating work. And it brought to mind, and it's been 20 plus 25 years ago more. I got interested in an organization called Heart Math, and I believe that Water Center is familiar with them as well.
I know
Either
them, yeah.
Tracy or Sherry. But it was in the concepts of very similar. What's the energetic thing going on, and how is that related both to your gut, your heart, and your brain? Being in coherence, this idea of getting everything sort of vibrating together brings greater cognitive capability, better health, all of these things. And
Thank you.
you can do this with, okay, plants resonate something. And
Yeah, I'm like,
other beings do. It's like,
yes. Look at that, right? That it's like that mental model that we've had around materialism is so strong, right? And how we think about our health. Someone put in Shannon put mental health is physical, right? That belief that mental health is physical. What if mental health is about our collective health, right? What if mental health is energetic? All this. Thank you. I'm going to keep going for sake of time, but there will hopefully be more time for questions, right? So this, not question. I want more feedback, but I'm just conscious that I deep dive into some of my wormholes and then sorry for me, come on. Okay. Call to systems is what I'm feeling from this is like, wow, we missed this interstitium thing, right? That we think about, oh, I gotta deal with my blood. We miss this whole thing of now thinking about our interstitial fluid and what role it plays. What else are we missing? And how do we not do that? So I think it's now we need this. And why? Okay. I was on a panel a number of years ago with Karen Joseph. She's the CEO of Reconciliation Canada. And we were on a panel called Beyond Incrementalism, from mission driven to massive change. And when I saw that, because I was looking up her name, I was like, oh, that was what we were talking about then. I hadn't really realized it was a number of years ago. But she was bringing up this idea that in her indigenous lineage, there's this idea, and in many others, of linear time, circular time. In her view, and in others, it's like masculine time and feminine time, not having to do with gender, but there's these, yin and yang, divine feminine, divine masculine, lots of different ways that people are looking at this. Linear time being that there's a problem and there's a solution and we move toward it. And we just need to be a bit more, if we could just go faster, or if we could, what's the word? Be more efficient, we can get there better, right? And when you have a linear problem, if I lose my phone and I can't find it, I'm going to ask you all to help me find it. And we have had a problem, and then we have had a solution when we find it. If it's broken, we can agree that it's solved because I've either now found it, it's now working. Great, problem, solution. We can work harder, we can look faster, more of us can look. And we need this linear type of leadership. We got a problem, we got to work hard and push hard and get there, right? The problems that we all care about right now are not linear problems. They're not actually problems. Houselessness, homelessness, our environmental problems. These are not problems. These are the results of complex systems. These are actually symptoms of lots of other things. They are not problems to be solved because there's no agreed upon state of solve, right? With poverty, we're going to tackle poverty. What is agreed upon state of solve? Everyone has the same amount of money. Everyone has above a certain threshold. What's the threshold, right? There's not this agreed upon state of solve. It is a condition, a result of our systems. Therefore, you can't solve a symptom, right? I just wrote this article for SSIR that's hopefully coming out soon called this, You Can't Solve a Symptom. And we are using our linear problem-solving drive to try to solve a symptom, which when you say it that way, you're like, of course you can't solve a symptom, right? Circularity has systems, and because it has systems, it's not problems, it doesn't have solutions. You can shift the conditions of the system to create different results, but you can't shift it alone. So you can contribute to shifting. When I talk to my students, I often ask them, do one-on-one conversations. And I first say, tell me the problem you're solving in the world. Tell me a problem you're solving, right? They have to have a conversation about that. Then I have them go to a different student and I say, how are you contributing? Actually, I say, how are you a contribution? Right? And then I ask them to reflect on that. And they're often like, oh, weight off my shoulder. Oh, contributing doesn't means I don't need to take it on alone. I don't have to do it all. I can find my way that's right for me, right? We do our students disservice when we give them a bunch of SDGs and we say, go solve one. Because first of all, those are not problems. Those are symptoms and we can contribute. So we can't solve it. And then if we think they can do it alone, oh my gosh, they're in for a lifetime of banging their head against the wall, right? So contributing requires two things. Number one, it requires some humbleness. And number two, it requires you to have a little bit of a systems lens because you have to recognize, I can't do this alone. So therefore I have to look at what else is going on so that when I give my part, it actually accelerates other people's, right? So circularity, complex times, times of chaos are actually where we need this circular type of leadership. Okay, so linear, when you have a problem and a solution, work harder, do it faster, do it better. We can get there. Complex, chaos, motion, all the things we're seeing now, we can make huge step changes. We're no longer in this linear paradigm if we can incrementally get there. But we need to start leading and teaching leading in different ways. Okay, so why now? Of course, look around, right? This is called the Berkana two loops model. I'm going to go back into circularity leadership, linear leadership in a second, but I just want to throw this out there. Berkana two loops model. Drea and I are both going to tell you at the end about a course that we're going to run that it's 4 webinars and we're going to look at a different tool each time. This will be the first tool we look at and we're going to look at it in deeper and we're actually going to apply it to our lives. But I want to introduce it so briefly now to just give us a little hope in this time of great change. When an old system is dying, ending, it doesn't incrementally turn into the new system. We don't go from horses to like half horse, half car to car, right? Like we go from horses and then the idea of cars is starting and then the horses as transportation decline and the cars increase, right? We don't transform one old system into the other. So when an old system is dying, a new system is being born, right? We are creating new systems right now. And those new systems in this time of complexity are going to require us to lead and be and think in different ways. And as much as it's hard to see things, here they use the term hospicing. A lot of things are being destroyed right now rather than hospicing, right? A lot of my husband's work was related to USAID. And so part of me, I can see the grief that comes with this. And I have so much hope because I'm like, oh, wow. Once things really are destroyed, at the same time, we can really be building something new, right? Yes, and one of a woman that I really respect and love her facilitation, Tuesday Rivera, always says, anything that's really important is a big T truth. And it has two polarities, yes, and. Wow, this is really scary and horrible. And wow, how it's being done is scary and horrible. And wow, this is such an exciting time to be alive. Get out your popcorn, right? Like, not just get out your popcorn, get out your popcorn. Now go out and do something. Let's create this new thing, right? Okay, so old model, linear leadership. We're right, they're wrong. It's not just old, it's now, right? How much are you hearing of? It's their fault. I mean, I saw someone on Facebook today celebrate, this is horrible, the death of a political opponent of their, someone they didn't, someone on a senator from the other side, right? It's their fault. We're right, they're wrong. We just need to fight harder. How much have you heard that recently? We just need to fight harder. I'm pretty sure that's not what we need to do, right? We've been in Cold Wars before. If I fight harder, if they fight harder, if I fight harder, if they fight harder, if I fight harder, if they fight harder. That is this win-lose mentality. That is this dominance mentality. That is this linear mentality that only one person can get to that goal, that there's only one way forward. No, it's not how we're going to get there. There's winners and losers. No. Oh, we just need to find the right metric of success, the right strategy. We just need to do it better. Better linear action worse linear action, either way, if we're taking this linear action that is built on the paradigm of we win, you lose, or you win, we lose, we're never going to get there. We're never going to get there, right? Circular leadership. It's based on intuition, relationships, interconnectedness, spaciousness, trust, systems understanding. I'm not going to dig into all these right now, but happy to in other work that we can do together. But back to Tuesday again, Tuesday often talks about, she has this idea called relationships called relationships as resolution. Relationship as resolution. In other words, if I'm going into a negotiation with you, a discussion with you or whatever, and we're trying to work together towards something, if I have a model of, I need to beat them, I need to get out of this better, one of us is going to win, versus actually we win if we are still in relationship. Actually, if our relationship is strengthened through the process of our discussion, our negotiation, whatever. Imagine the leadership of our countries operating with that mental model, right? Our companies, our businesses of like, oh, and this is not one or the other, right? We have swung really far on that masculine leadership, linear leadership, whatever you want to call it. That is how I have an MBA. That's how our businesses are taught and run. We have this efficiency, winning, dominance mindset. And we have swung really far. It doesn't mean we need to switch all the way, that we're constantly sitting in intuition. It's about the balance, the yin and the yang, right? This balance. And so we need to bring it back into balance. And that is what this time is for. And I want to share this quote from Alice Evans, who used to run Len Kelly Chase. And she's actually speaking here about the role of funders in systems change. Because back to that paradigm of like, we need the right metric. What should we be measuring? How do we know if you're doing the right thing when we give you money around homelessness, whatever it is, education? She says funders' role is to create the conditions for systems change. Creating the conditions for systems change is the desired outcome, right? So imagine we had that leadership paradigm. That is how we taught our MBAs. That is how we taught our students. That is how we taught our scientists. This creating the conditions for challenging the status quo, long-term thinking, following that intuition, right? Those pieces. What does that look like, right? Relationships, interconnectedness, that relationships is resolution. Okay, where are we on time? I know I only heard from Judy before, and I cut us off because I was worried about time, but I'm happy to hear a few things from anyone who wants to put in the chat or speak up. How is this resonating?
Good morning. So my name is Ruthie, and I'm in Pensacola, Florida, leading a collective impact effort to improve cradle to career outcomes. And this is the constant conversation of how do we fund the backbone convener of a collective impact organization. We don't have programs or services to point to outcomes. And so this is a really powerful statement, I think, when we're coming, and doing our version of fundraising and asking for money of we're the convener, the measurement, all of those things. And so I don't have like how many more kids can now read or how many more puppies have now been homed. But what I can say is what has changed at the systems level, something that no individual organization or program could get to alone, but we were able to accomplish this together. And as a funder, what you did was create the condition for that systems change. So I think this is just a really powerful perspective for kind of a higher level of thinking about we're very like program rich and systems poor. So how do we change that?
Thank you, Ruthie. Program rich and systems poor. Anyone else want to add some thoughts here?
Yeah.
Rowena.
I'm Rowena. I work at a nonprofit that does like a lot of professional development for schools, and we help them integrate sustainability into their curriculum. But I was a teacher for like 13 years, and I think like this just reminds me of COVID and going going back into the schools after, and how there was this feeling that things were going to change, which needed to change in the school system, but it kind of just went back to the way it was. And it kind of doubled down, and that kids didn't need more like testing, they needed more understanding, they needed more support socially, emotionally, and more time outside, less time on screens, and just it's shifting now to more screens, and like because of the fear of learning lost, right? But not really thinking, what did the kids learn throughout that period of COVID? I'm sure they did learn a lot. It's just, what was that valued?
Wow, thank you. I love that. It's an example there of this this idea that if you have this mental model, right? Let's say the mental model is, if we test them, if we give more tests, if we test them, if we have more data to show where we are, we can adjust, right? Oh, it's not working. Oh, we got to test more. We got to have more data, right? Because we're taking that mental model and we're just like, we got to be more efficient with it. We got to push it harder, right? Roger Martin, famous business authors, written a really ridiculous number of books. He wrote a book called, oh, I just lost it and wrote it down before. Anyway, the new something. Anyway, one of his books, he talks about this idea that in businesses, right? He's not looking at social problems, but it's the same thing. Businesses are systems, right? In businesses, you're doing that. You take this model, this mental model, and an example would be a mental model of, we really want to be innovative. So what we're going to do is be really rigorous, just like you are with those students in testing. We're going to be really rigorous around testing our innovations, testing them. And we're going to, so that we can have the right algorithm to figure out which innovations are going to be, the outliers that help us grow. And what it turns out, it's not working. Well, we just have to apply the model harder. We just need to be more rigorous. Oh, we just need to be more rigorous. No, the mental model is wrong. The mental model says that we can figure out at this early stage of an idea which ones are going to become these outliers. It's not. Actually, the more data you have, the more likely it is to be an incremental innovation, because you have data to prove it. The things that have no data behind them, the really out there ideas that have no proof, are the ones that might be that moonshot, right? And so that mental model was wrong, right? And if those mental models don't change, we're stuck. And I just saw Ken wrote it. Could you argue that systems thinking is also to solve a symptom? I would say that these are like mindsets and approaches. It's not, systems thinking isn't like a thing in my mind. It's, someone also wrote, you need to solve the symptom. Yeah, we need to figure out that we have this poverty. We have kids who are going to school but not learning. We have mental health challenges. We have all these challenges, right? If we say, I need to solve that using this paradigm that I have and just push it harder, without doing that Daniela Meadows piece of recognizing this is a paradigm. Ooh, we could just shift paradigms. Hard to do, right? When our paradigm is not right, when it's not working for the thing, no matter what we do, we're not going to get there. Does that make sense? So, what would it be like if we were more in balance? We still need to do the linear problem solving, find the phone, make the website, hire the person, pay the bill, right? Do our taxes. Those are problems that we can solve using our linear management skills that we've been given, right? It's when we come up against these really complex challenges that we need that spaciousness. We need that wide view. We need that, is there a weird lattice-like interconnection of tubes on the edge of that gallbladder, right? We need that willingness to have that beginner's mindset, question the normal paradigm, speak up, right? Okay. So what would it be like if we were in more balance with this? One thing is that it would bring back nuance and complexity into our conversations, I think. And we would be able to bridge more divides. There's an article I have my students read called Complicating the Narrative. And in the book that I'm co-authored, it's hopefully coming out later this year, 2 books coming out this year. In the second one, we talk about complexifying the narrative and this idea that when we tell linear stories about something, this is the problem. This is how you solve it. Everybody must do this without nuance or without, and it's complicated and all of that. We create this black and white divide. We create the divide. Don't know how to take my hand down. I'm not going to have my hand up. There we go. I do that because I'm Italian and I talk with my hands. Okay, so we create this by thinking they're wrong, we're right. It's complex, right? Oh, maybe I can live that other news station of the people that don't agree with me. I refuse to listen to any of it. Or maybe I'm gonna listen to a part and it's like, oh wow, I agree with this little thing and I don't agree with all these things, but look, there's like, let's have this, we can start to bridge, we can have a conversation that is nuanced, right? And that's where we need to get to. And this is something that I just want to share, is that I think we have a world right now. So this is a causal loop, mini little causal loop diagram. Probably a lot of you know what that is, but it's showing causality, and the S means they go in the same direction, right? So the amount of complexity that's included in how we teach, in how we're spoken to on TV and by politicians, by corporate leaders, etc. If there's lots of complexity and nuance in our narratives, then we become more comfortable with that nuance in those narratives. And if we become more comfortable with it, then the people that are sharing those information with us believe, oh, we can keep acting out of nuance, right? So if it goes down, if complex issues are not taught in schools, if we do not have nuance in our journalism, right? If the algorithms keeps feeding us only the things we want to hear because it thinks we already want, like that's the only thing we want to know about, then people are looking for the right answers. They don't feel comfortable in the nuance. And then those leaders who are trying to teach us think we can't handle the truth. Yes, the quote from the movie, I'm not remembering, right? We can't handle the truth, right? But what if we start teaching this? It is taught in schools. We engage in nuance in our conversations. We feel comfortable in the like, oh, I don't agree with how they voted. I don't agree with what they're doing. I don't agree, but I can have a conversation around this issue that's important to you that I have now, because I found this bridge, and I can have. It doesn't mean we talk to the bullies. No, it doesn't mean we like try and engage in with a narcissist and change their mind. No, that's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm not asking you to put you in the steps of violence. But what I'm saying is that if we can't engage with these conversations as not black and white, it's nuanced, we're in trouble. And then media, as everyone says, well, can't tell them the truth. They just need to be told what to do. They can't deal with it with any sort of nuance. And that is scary to me. So as educators, like, this is the number one thing, right? We need to help our young people understand that there are paradigms, that our mental models create our beliefs and what information we then seek out in the world. Okay, I got one more story for us, and then hopefully a little bit of time to chat after. Anyone know the Roseto study? This is anyone heard of the Roseto study? If you read Outliers, it's the introduction to Outliers. Anyone remember what it was about? I'm putting stuff in the chat. Okay, Roseto, Pennsylvania, incorporated in 1912. Most of the people who moved there moved from Roseto di Valvatore in Italy, a mining town in Italy, to this mining town in Pennsylvania. Really homogeneous Italian community living there. And in the 1950s, some doctors noticed, wow, people in Roseto are not dying of heart attacks at any rates related, compared to their neighbors. They had 50% less deaths overall from heart attacks than all the surrounding towns. They had no heart attack at all under the age of 45, whereas a lot of the other towns did. And they're like, what's going on in Roseto? Right? So from 1955 to 1961, without their little phones, without their little computers, they marched into Roseto. and they sat down at people's dinner tables. And when those people scooped out a scoop of pasta, they scooped a scoop of pasta into their collection containers, and they were tracking, what are these people doing? What are they eating? How are they living? Why are they not dying of heart attacks and actually a whole bunch of other health indicators, right? So they had these beliefs, assumptions, better diet, better genes, better fitness. And one by one, they were all debunked, okay? They weren't eating better. They looked at these people's cousins who'd moved to different towns from Roseto. They're all dying, same rates. Not fitness. They're like, what is this? What is this? And what they realized was someone put this before. Our health is not just physical, right? That the support from the community, that the members of the community were exponentially more likely to be involved in fraternal societies, different clubs. They were living in these 3-generation homes, that when someone didn't have money, the rest of the community gathered around and supported them. People were taken care of in community. Okay. That the culture of living and supporting communities, this is just a cultural loop. The more the culture is there, the more support happens, the more culture happens, and the more support you have for community. In this study, they're showing the health indicators are going up. Probably it was something like support goes up, stress level goes down, stress level goes down, health indicators, outcomes go up. I'm going to go to this and then go back. Yet, we still go to the doctors, and the doctors only ask us this. Family medical history. They're saying, tell me about your genes. Tell me about your genes. Tell me about your system. Tell me about your neighbors. Tell me about your community. Tell me about your interconnections. Tell me about how supported you feel. We don't ask that. You know, I just was home last week. My mom had hip replacement surgery, right? And she was mentioning, oh, none of my family members have lived till 80. Living, so, you know, and this heart attack medicine, not heart attack medicine, blood pressure medicine is helping. Is it that? It might be. It doesn't mean it's not yes, it's not one or the other. It's yes and, right? Are our genes indicators? Sure. But this study shows that it is also this. In 1985, the death rate and heart attack rate of Roseto, Pennsylvania was the same as all the surrounding towns. Right? This is a challenging thing when we want to have diversity too. How do we do diversity and healthy systems, right? They stopped living in these 3 generations home. People started moving out, intermixing. They stopped taking care of each other in the same way. Heart attacks went back up to the average rates. Why do I care about this? My grandfather, Jack Falcone, was born in Roseto, Pennsylvania. His name was Tony, but there was too many Tonys, so they called him Jack. He was the youngest son of 10 kids. And when his 2 older brothers were being pulled out of middle school, the teacher came to the dad and said, your kids are smart. Don't pull them out. And the boys said, we will go work in the quarry, Dad, if you let Jack go to middle school, go to high school. And the dad said, yes. And so Jack went to middle school. Jack went to high school. The other brothers saved up money from working in the quarry. They sent Jack to college. He went to Lehigh. He moved to New York. He worked in engineering. He drove home with my mother and my uncle every weekend and brought cash to his mother and to his cousins. And when that older brother, one of the ones who helped him, lost his job and was going to lose his house, Jack paid for the house. I never met my grandfather because he died of a heart attack. He's the only one who moved out at that time, the only one who died young of a heart attack. So it is not just our genes. Our systems are literally a matter of life and death. And we have such skewed mental models of how to live as humans in a healthy way. And we need to shift this, right? We need to start asking different questions. And so, yeah, I'm going to end with some things on how to stay connected, and I'll add some slides at the end, but yes, but what does this bring up for you? Feel free to speak up and I'll start reading the chat. Yeah,
You're
having an
not
open.
supposed to make us cry during this. I just want to say that. That was
Ah, it almost
quite an
made
amazing
myself cry.
story. Way to bring it home.
You know, this is, these times are challenging, and these times are our time where we can be like, enough, right? One of the things that I've been thinking about is that I keep saying it's time, and you have all these people who are saying it's time, right? You have the people who care about consciousness and conscious leadership and the stuff that's happening in the telepathy tapes and how do we bring mindfulness and neuroscience, etc., into our classrooms. And they're like, it's time, right? You have the regenerative movement. It is time. We stopped spraying chemical. We just need more chemicals. Bugs, things aren't growing well. Well, if we just put more chemicals on this land, we'd be better off. No, the mental model is wrong. It is time to shift this. Divine Feminine, they're saying, bring in the feminine principle, reconnect us to that intuition, those pieces. It is time. Rematriation, the indigenous movement, female-led indigenous movement, to say we all need to reconnect to our indigeneity. It is time. And this is not their fault versus us. This is all of us saying it is time. We are shifting this mental models. We are shifting how we operate. It is no longer we're going to test our kids harder, spray more pesticides. We are done. That is linear. That is dominance. That is that way that we have been teaching, and it is done. Rowena?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story. It reminded me of my mom, and this similar story happened with her because she came from a family of like 10 in the Philippines. But I'm not going to tell that story, but I just wanted to say like that's what I connected to. And also it just reminds me of like regenerative economics and how this idea like to be, I guess, agnostic to growth. I feel like in our world, it's like growth, growth, growth. We need growth. And like we want growth first for our kids, right? But I think that's what's made it imbalance, right? That like growth for the sake of what or at the cost of what. And that when you go to the doctor and the doctor tells you that you have a growth, this is like coming from Kate Rayworth, who, wrote the Dawn Economics, like you don't want that growth because that growth actually in your body is cancers, right? So like, how do we get back to it is looking for me and many others, it's like nature is there as like a really great model to look at and how, beings are interconnected and how to treat one another, I think. And I agree, like I think looking at indigeneity for that and nature is big, but then I don't think we can go completely back to that. It's just like, how do we build that new? And I think that
How do
question
we have
in
that
the
in a
chat about
modern
like,
world?
technology. Yeah, right. Like, is technology going to be part of it? It's like, it's almost like it kind of has to be because we can't go back to not having it. But how do we learn how to balance, right? Be balanced with it.
And you just said the mental model of growth is a mental model that needs to go away, because growth is like in comparison to what, rather than this idea of all shifting, right? It's like growth. Indigenous communities, we treat them like, oh, we have grown. We are modern. Look how far we've grown. And I think it is, and you got to listen to this, and you can't listen to the telepathy tapes and not really question some of this stuff. If what they are teaching now in that thing is true, indigenous communities are way more advanced than us. We have de-evolved. We have not evolved. We have forgotten how to connect with each other, right? We have forgotten those things, right? A teacher of mine, Miranda Pretty Owl, talks about this idea of, we pretend that there's indigenous stories that are tales. Oh, the bear taught the people that the osha root helps with coughs. Oh, it's a tale. What if it's not a tale? The bear taught the people because they were in connection. They were in relationship, right? We have de-evolved, right? So that's whole idea of growth and what does that mean? We need to rethink, right? I'm gonna share a
Hi,
few.
this is Devesh Tahale. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please.
Hi, so I work in healthcare, and I know you mentioned many stories in healthcare that really struck a chord with me. So thank you for bringing those up. But one of the new emerging models in healthcare and how we look at health overall, I think is gaining more and more momentum. So the traditional model is very similar to what you mentioned in your example of if you have more bugs, then just spray more insecticide, right? And we know that that leads to disaster because it is a one-track linear thinking model. So, functional medicine model is a new and emerging field. More and more people are becoming functional medicine practitioners. Just read a real quick definition here. Patient-centered approach to healthcare that focuses on identifying and addressing root causes of disease rather than just treating symptoms. So there you go. You start getting this feel for we are starting to apply systems thinking. So how do we do that? Well, by considering interconnectedness of various systems within the body and factors like lifestyle, environment, and genetics. So when we start bringing this holistic approach, and instead of just labeling it as, oh, that's just hokey medicine, we open our minds to saying, are we really truly understanding the body as a complex, interconnected system? And then looking for outcomes such as overall health and well-being. Well, when you do that, you're going to have an automatic impact on the current challenges of healthcare, such as not enough healthcare personnel, not enough hospitals to treat patients, EDs, emergency departments being overwhelmed. So the answer to ED emergency departments being overwhelmed is not more EDs. Just like the answer to more fires in the city is not having more fire stations. So we got to figure out where the fire is coming from.
Yes. I was just looking up this, I'm trying to remember her name, but Instituto Dara is the name of the organization. I'm forgetting the woman who started it, but it sparked a lot of the community health worker movement. And what she would talk about, she's like, I work in a hospital, I work in ER, I work in Brazil, and we have people coming in, okay, gave you antibiotics, gave your kid antibiotics, they still have this cough. And so she rented the building across the street. And when that would happen, she'd send them across the street and she'd say, go talk to those community health workers. And there they would interview. And when I think about systems thinking, it's this spaciousness. Instead of saying, when you walk in, we first deal with this and then we deal with that. Instead, they just listen, and they listen widely. Oh, wow. Oh, you don't have paperwork to work, so you can't work, so you have no money, and your kid isn't then registered in school. Okay, interesting. And all these other things are happening. You don't have a job. Oh, you have a hole in your roof, right? Okay, we're going to connect you to the local Habitat for Humanity type organization. They're going to fix that hole in your kid's roof, because if there's a hole in his roof, he's going to keep having this cough. Then come in and we'll help you connect you to these pro bono lawyers who might help you get the paperwork that you need so you can get the job, whatever. But it's not like we're going to just fix everyone's roof first. And no, we're listening in this wide way, right? And I thank you for bringing that up, of this like different way of looking at health, that it is holistic. And that is not just in health, right? It's how do we do that in education? How do we do that in our, regenerative agriculture, etc. I know we just have a few minutes left. If there's one more voice that really wants to be heard, or any other questions in the chat that I'm missing. Yeah, how do we create spaces for these nuanced, complex issues? Yeah, I mean, there's different, news channels like that. I don't know if you've heard of Unheard, these different news channels like them that are trying to complicate narratives. They're trying to make it these more long form things. Okay, I'm going to share, and I'm happy to stay on if there's other, questions, but I do want to share my PowerPoint one more time to just say, I would love, we could have gone for like 2 hours. We touched on so many topics, but please feel free to reach out if you would like to discuss anything further. This is my website, systemsledleadership.com. I have 2 books that I've co-authored coming out this year. So if you join the website, there's a way to join the email list, and I'm happy to share all this information with you. I have a social impact educator Google group that has about 400 global educators on it. So if you're an educator, you can reach out to me, send an email, or go there to sign up to that. And there's 2 courses that Dria's going to tell you a bit more about too, that are 2 offerings that we're offering through. You can sign up through the Water Center, but one is peer-to-peer office hours. So it's a set of office hours, like, why should just students get office hours? Kind of drop in coaching that we can bring up the topics that we'd like. Also, with some of them are drop-in coaching, 2 of them are actually conversations of how do we lead in complexity right now. So for educators, systems, innovators, social impact leaders. And then a 4-part webinar series introducing 4 different tools, starting with that Berkana 2 loops that we looked at, learning about the tool, and then doing some work about applying it to our own work in our own lives. So I'd love to see you on any of those things. And I'm grateful that Sherry and Dria and the whole Water Center team invited me today to be with you. So I'm really grateful that you all showed up. Thanks for your time, and thanks for doing the work that you're doing. And caring about this big shift we're in as humans. May it be for the highest and greatest good.
Thank you, Danielle. And I think I speak for all of us. You can give a round of applause with the reaction or just your hands, but this has just been such a wonderful conversation. Thanks for facilitating this, and for everyone who lent their voice. I do want to borrow just the last couple minutes of your time to share some exciting things. So one, Daniela mentioned it, or Daniela. See, Daniela Meadows, Daniela, it must be a sign.
I
Systems.
feel grateful to be associated with her.
But Daniela is going to be giving a workshop series and some coaching. That offering will be up on our website soon, so stay tuned, but that's starting the end of this month. We also have another open studio, another wonderful conversation from a AFCer, David Green. He'll be talking about leadership and how to get promotions and also market yourself, but with the systems lens. He brings decades of experience in this, and it's going to be a really exciting conversation. We also have, if you liked the stories and the storytelling here, we have a workshop in Tucson. A couple people mentioned in the chat how Tucson is a gem. As a non-native, I agree, and I'm sure the natives on the call also do. So come on down to sunny Tucson, hang out with the Water Center folks, but also learn a little bit more about storytelling with David Hutchins. He has a phenomenal website. His LinkedIn is actually really great too. It's good content, but his method for telling stories can help us connect and share impact more. We have information on how to register, but it is a steal. The toolkit alone is over half the price of just the registration. So we highly recommend attending, and La Paloma is beautiful. And if you want to dive more into facilitating and systems thinking, there's a couple of you on the call. Daniela herself is in the AFC program. We still have spots. We actually have 3 programs open right now. I am an alum of cohort 1. Any of us are happy to share our experience, but we highly recommend, if this is something that you're passionate about, it's a year-long program with coaching, and you join a community of practice of people like Daniela, myself, Sherry, and multiple other people on this call. And last but not least, another AFCer, if you are in the education leadership space, she is offering a 5-month workshop series as well. That's Monica Udrone, and it'll be for early childhood virtual fellowships. That's what we have for you folks. I wanted to address some final questions in the chat as well. Did you like this and want to watch it again? Well, good thing for you, it's going to be on our YouTube channel, so that'll be coming probably next week. And I sent a brief survey in the chat. It is immensely helpful for us holding this free community space. So if you could take 5 minutes to fill that out, you'll also be getting an email. And again, thank you for coming.